Hi, my name is Jim Dickson. I currently work for The Difference, and I've been lucky enough to be through the DSP process with the school that I was working in previously. We were successful in setting up a fantastic internal provision, but more importantly, it was great to see how that best practice was so strategic over the rest of the school. Lucky to have the work and the support from The Difference to look at school improvement, but also on the fact that we were a special measures school. We were going through a very testing time, and the development of the internal provision allowed us to share that best practice across the rest of the school. In that time, we went from special measures to good in all areas. The first thing we had to look at was what was the purpose of our internal provision, and what we wanted to really make sure was when these students went into our provision that they were reintegrated back into the main building as soon and as quickly and as skilled as possible. We started off maybe really too much support, too much socially based, too much nurturing, a lot of project work that we did with the students that seemed as though the students were engaged and they were working really, really well. But we had to then decide on what our purpose was, and our purpose was about reintegration. So we looked at it again, and we used The Difference, and we used the best practice of schools that The Difference work with to start looking at how we worked at ensuring that these students are well equipped to go back into the main building. We did a lot of work on preparing the students and preparing the staff. We did a lot of work on upskilling the students and upskilling the staff. So the work that we did with the internal provision had a massive impact on the work that we did with the staff in the wider scope of the school. Using the format for the DSP, we were able to learn from others and implement new strategies, giving the students added skills to move back more successfully. This was crucial to what we wanted to do. It was crucial to what we had in mind. What was our purpose? It was to reintegrate them. But what we found is that what we couldn't do is we couldn't just work with them in the internal AP and then put them back into the main building without upskilling them to the right levels of being able to do that, but also upskilling the staff, putting on CPD sessions that allowed the staff across the main building and in the AP to make sure that they were skilled enough to support these students to be a success. What did we start doing? Well, we started looking at a lot more than just project work and foundational functional skills and just being very nurturing. We looked at the literacy. We had a huge push across the school, but also maybe a little bit more focused with the school, with the internal provision about literacy. We used a process called Lexonic, which allowed us to really accelerate through the accelerated program, which allowed these students to be more successful in their literacy work. We also made sure that the lessons that they were doing in internal AP were also very similar to what they were doing in the main building. What we did, why do we do that? We did that so that when they went back in, they weren't completely unaware of what was happening. They'd done it before. They actually felt as though they were more experts than the rest of the class because they'd done it before in a different context. We also looked at behaviour strategies to make sure that they were supported, and we made sure the staff were aware of that as well. We looked at the way that we looked at the timetables that they had, the groups that they were going into. And we also had a focus on attendance, making sure we knew, like we did with the rest of the school, but what we knew were the barriers of them coming into school on a regular basis. The CPD that we used was very much from the inclusive leadership program that we do as part of The Difference, and that will be part of the offer that comes through the DSP program. But we made sure that we ensured all staff had a real understanding of how to support the specific students, but then also using it as a tier 1 product and a universal offer. So all the fantastic work that we were doing in the internal AP that was supporting these students to be a success was then transferred into the whole school, and the whole school were not just welcoming back these students, but also catering for the students across the whole school to make sure they were all a success for every single individual. The DSP program and the work they've done with The Difference had a significant impact with the work that we did in the school, and the work that took us from special measures to good, but also took us from just being a school that had a fantastic provision, but also spread that understanding and skill across the rest of the school. I hope you are successful in applying for the DSP program, because it makes a massive difference and change to the work that you do in your schools at the moment.